everyone that has joined now. Welcome to our second information session for our virtual open week this week. It's really exciting to have you guys here. I can see some familiar faces from our session this morning, so welcome back. In this session, I'm going to be talking about where we work around the world. So covering all the different countries where we're working and a little bit of an overview about who we are and what we do for anyone who wasn't in our session this morning. And I'm just going to get straight into it. So who is Challenges Abroad? We are a social enterprise, and what that means is that, different to a traditional business, we're driven more so by the impact that we can make than the profits that we can make. So for us, we measure our impact in two ways, and that's the impact on our participants, on our volunteers, and looking at how we can create a global community of people who care and provide young people and students the opportunity to go overseas, use their skills and give back. And then the second way we're looking at making an impact is through our charity, the Future Sense Foundation, who all of our volunteers are volunteering with, and looking at how we can be helping some of the marginalised communities that we're working with around the world. That two-found impact, both on providing the opportunity for young people to make a difference and gain some incredible skills from their experience, but also helping our charity in the communities where we're working as well. So we currently work in 6 countries around the world. So in Asia, we are in Cambodia, India, Thailand and Nepal. And then we're in Tanzania, in Africa, and Peru in South America. And in each of those countries, we're only really working in one community. We're not spreading ourselves too thin. We prefer to work and create really strong and close ties with the community members. And as our programs grow, we grow out from the community, but we really want to make sure that we're having a strong long-term impact in each of those areas. And as I talk through the different communities that we're working with, you'll notice that we are based in quite rural locations, and that's because across the board we generally find that in rural locations around the world, these communities are far more marginalised compared to those living in cities, and there are less services and less amenities, and there's far more disadvantage. So I'm going to just jump in and start giving you a bit of a rundown of each individual country where we're working, talking a little bit about what it's like there, some of the challenges that we're facing there, and then as a volunteer, how you can be helping when you're there. So I'm going to start with Cambodia. And in Cambodia, we are based in Battambang. So if you have a look at my pointer, there's the little dot just there, that's Battambang. And you'd actually fly into Siem Reap, which is a major city and where you may have heard of Angkor Wat. That's where that's based. So we're about a 3-hour drive from Battambang, and what would happen is you would fly into Siem Reap and our team would meet you at the airport when you get there, and then you'll head straight away on a bus to Battambang where you'll be based for the 2 weeks that you're volunteering. Battambang's a beautiful riverside city. It's the third largest city in Cambodia, but it actually kind of feels more like a rural town when you get there. It's really quaint and lovely. And so in Battambang, we're seeing a few different issues here. So we've got a lot of poverty across Cambodia. I don't know if many people know about the Khmer Rouge and the genocide that happened throughout the 1970s, where a huge amount of the population was killed, and many of those were educated people. So Cambodia certainly faced its really significant development challenges over the last few years, and there's still a long way to go. So we're seeing 16% of families who are living below the poverty line, and particularly in Battambang where we work, less than half of children who are eligible to go to school actually go to school. And that has a lot to do with parents needing their children to work to earn anything that they can to help the family survive, because they're just really in that at-risk poverty section, and there isn't that focus on staying in education no matter what to try and break out of that poverty cycle. It's just not a reality for many people in the community. And then within that, if you've only got 50% of your students actually at school, 20% who make it to high school are dropping out. They're not engaged. They're thinking that they should just go and start working. And then of those who are remaining, there's only a 12% graduation rate from year 12. So we're seeing some really significant education challenges. We also see a lot of health challenges. So we've got less than 0.1 doctors per 1,000 people in the population. And I'll let that sink in because that is a very, very small number. And we're also seeing that life expectancy is only 65, which is pretty low. I think most of us here in Australia and in the more developed world would be expecting to live far above that. And it just goes to show the sort of challenges that people are facing in terms of their own health, but also the health services that are available to them. So on our volunteer challenges, this is where you get to start to address some of these issues. So we have our Cambodia Community Challenge, which is a perfect challenge for absolutely anyone to join. It doesn't matter what your skills or expertise is. And here you're going to be really focusing on education quality. You'll be working in our partner schools and you'll be running a range of different workshops, focusing on getting children engaged in their learning hands-on rather than the rote learning, and really encouraging children to place value in their education. You'll be covering a whole range of different topics, whether it's conversational English, whether it's STEM, creative arts, life skills, a whole heap of topics that are left out of the curriculum in Cambodia, but are really essential for children to really break out of that poverty cycle and have enhanced opportunities later on. Then we have our Cambodia Health Promotion Challenge, and this is perfect for anyone who is studying or has experience in any form of health, whether that's nursing, medicine, any sort of allied healthcare, health science, biomedicine, that sort of thing. And again, focusing on the education side of things, you will be running health promotion workshops with our communities. So teaching about basic things like hygiene and sanitation, incredibly important in today's current circumstances, but also things like non-communicable diseases, girls and women's health, nutrition, mental health, a lot of things that the community just doesn't have that awareness of. And so people are falling ill when, if they did have that knowledge, they might be able to stay well, there'd be less of a strain on the health system, all those sorts of things. So really focusing on healthy habits and how we can share that knowledge with the community. And then lastly, we have our Wildlife and Environment Challenge, which is a really exciting one. So you'll actually get to spend 1 week out in Siem Reap, working with our elephant sanctuary partner, and you're going to be doing a bit of work on conservation and helping the elephants that are really at risk at the moment. There's a lot of land clearing happening, and it's really hurting the environment, but also hurting the animals. So you'll get to spend a week there with our sanctuary, and then you'll come back to Battambang and spend a week with the community and really focusing on environmental education. I think all the communities where we work are really seeing significant challenges with the increasing effects of climate change, and in communities where there maybe isn't even proper waste management or recycling, it's really important that we can work with them and share our knowledge and see how we can help them cope and create new habits to go into the future with. So that's Cambodia in a nutshell, and I'll just mention that if anyone has questions along the way, please feel free to just pop that into the chat or to just turn on your microphone at any time, and we will let you in. So I'll move on now to India, which is our second country in Asia. And so in India, we're based in a little town called Palampur. Excuse me. And if you can see from my pointer, we're right up in the north in an area called Himachal Pradesh. And so we're basically right at the base of the Himalayas. So when you think India, you think hot all year round, really sweltering. Up here, it actually gets quite cold. You see snow-capped mountains. And if you're traveling during our summer, it's actually winter over there and can be really, really cold. If you're traveling during our winter, it is really, really hot and it's the monsoon season. So it's a really interesting area of India to be. And if you were going to be volunteering on one of these programs, you'd actually fly into New Delhi here and then catch another short flight up to Himachal Pradesh and then transfer. It's about an hour to our base in Palambur. And so some of the issues that we're seeing in India, and you'll notice that there's a bit of a trend in some of the issues that all of our communities are facing, but we've got a large percentage of those living below the poverty line who are illiterate, and a really small number, only 50% of people living on the poverty line complete secondary school. And for us, we really believe that education and children finishing their education is the way that they can break out of the poverty cycle. And so you can see when there's only 15% completing secondary school, we know that children are going into work early and it's less likely that they'll be able to break out of that cycle. Then when you look at health, government spending on health is only 1% of GDP, which is absolutely tiny for a massive country like India. And we're really seeing a lot of issues with a lack of facilities. There's a lot of private facilities that many of the poor can't access. And there's also a huge lack of knowledge around basic things, as well as poverty contributing to people not being able to eat nourishing food. So we've got 196 million people across the country being undernourished. And then on top of that, we've got the rapid population growth and urbanisation in India is putting huge pressure on natural resources, and we're facing challenges to do with waste management and natural disasters and the preservation of the environment into the future. So how you can help, we have our India Community Challenge and our Himalaya Challenge. And again, like our Cambodia Community Challenge, these are fantastic for anyone from any background can get involved in this. And you'll be working again in our schools and really focusing on student engagement, covering aspects of the curriculum that are potentially missing or that our partner schools don't have the resources to teach and would like us to be involved with. And you're really just working with the children to inspire them to stay engaged in their education. And you might also be working on some smaller renovation projects as well. You might be painting educational murals, helping with hand washing stations, gardening, those sorts of things around the school to sort of brighten the learning environment. On the Himalaya Challenge, you do your 2 weeks of volunteering, and then there's a built-in trek into the Himalayas for a week. So for anyone who is wanting to get a bit of exploring and adventuring, that's definitely a fantastic program for you. Then we have our India Health Promotion Challenge, and again, similar to our Cambodia Community Challenge, you're going to be running health promotion workshops and really increasing knowledge around key health topics. Again, these might be things like hygiene and sanitation, nutrition, healthy habits, mental health, all the things that are pressing in the community at the time. And then finally, we have our India Climate Challenge, which is a new challenge that will be launching on our website very soon. So you'll have the opportunity to be one of the first volunteers on this program. And this, again, is going to be really focusing on the environment, and you'll spend 2 weeks working with the local community at our partner schools, teaching environmental education, but also getting hands-on in some projects at the schools and the community that can really sort of make a concrete effort in tackling some of the environmental challenges that we're seeing and helping to preserve the natural environment into the future and combat some of those effects of climate change that we're starting to see. All right, so next I am going to chat about Nepal. So in Nepal, we are based in a little town in Dhulikhel, and I can see that my map here hasn't loaded for you guys. I'm sorry about that. But we're based in the Kathmandu Valley in Nepal, which is about 30 kilometers outside of Kathmandu, the capital city where you'll be flying into. And it's an absolutely amazing rural area outside of the city, but still quite close in the mountains. And again, like the other areas, is facing a few significant challenges. So we're seeing things like poorly funded and under-resourced schools. The government spends a lot more money on schools that are in the cities like Kathmandu and Pokhara, and as a result, rural schools are really left behind. We've also got over 5% of children not attending primary school, which is really concerning, especially when we look at dropout rates that increase through secondary school. It's only going to get higher and higher. We also have some huge health challenges, with 25% of the population lacking access to safe drinking water. And we know how many issues can be caused from not having clean water to drink. So that's a really big one, as well as limited knowledge of personal hygiene and sanitation. And in times like these, it really, we have seen how COVID-19 can spread so quickly and how important hygiene and sanitation is. And so in communities like this, when there's that lack of knowledge, even basic things like a common cold or different small viruses that aren't as harmful can really spread through a community and prevent people from going to work. And when you're in precarious work, that has all the other challenges on top of that. And then finally, we have a lack of waste management. And in Nepal, there is a huge issue with plastic being burnt rather than recycled. And it's a mixture of there not being the recycling facilities, but also a lack of knowledge of the community that of the harm that burning plastic can cause, not only for the environment, but also for our own health from breathing in those fumes. So a few issues definitely to be tackling here. And so how we can help on our volunteering programs, again, we have our Nepal Community Challenge, looking at the education system and seeing how we can boost those attendance rates, really inspire students, teach things like life skills that will set them up for their future. We have our Nepal Health Promotion Challenge, and again, like those other health promotion programs I've spoken about, we're focusing on health education and really seeing how we can give people the tools to stay healthy and well, which will benefit them for the rest of their lives. And then we have our Nepal Sustainability Challenge, and this one is focusing far more on the environment, looking at environmental education and seeing how we can inspire the next generation to really take on the charge of protecting our environment. At one of our partner schools, we've established an environmental club, and that is something that one of our previous volunteer groups did, and now they meet regularly and they look at how they can work with their parents and their school teachers to really improve their school environment and the environment around them. And it's been really fun to see how the students have really taken the charge there, and we're keen to see that spread throughout the rest of our partner schools and the community. So that's something that you could be involved in if you're doing our Nepal Sustainability Challenge. And so with our final country in Asia, I'm going to be talking about Thailand. And I think this can often be one that sort of surprises people, because we're used to seeing Thailand as an area, that's pretty well developed for Asia, that we go to on holidays. It's got amazing resorts and hotels, and why would we need to be volunteering there? Well, we're based again in a rural area in Thailand, and we're right up in the north, up here near Chiang Mai. So we're based in a village called Mae Sariang, and then we're in the hill tribe villages surrounding that. And these hill tribe villages are very remote, and they're actually formed when Burmese refugees came across the border decades ago and formed their own hill tribes in Thailand. They've only recently been recognised by the Thai government as citizens, and because they didn't have that recognition, they face significant challenges in terms of simple things like electricity and running water, but also huge things to do with job opportunities, economic development, health, education. So we're doing a lot of different challenges up there. And this is a little bit of a different area, I think, from a lot of the other countries where we work, because it's a very, very rural and very basic area. So if you really want an extra challenge in terms of the amenities that are available to you, heading up to Thailand to our hill tribes is an absolute adventure. So some of the issues that we're seeing here, again, is rural schools being underfunded, overcrowded, and lack of high quality teachers. So what happens in Thailand is that the government allocates all the teachers around the country. And so the teachers that perform the best in their exams get to choose the schools that they want to go to, and then it just goes down the preference list. And rural schools, like where we're working, generally are not sought after by high performing teachers. They want to be at the high performing schools in the bigger cities. So we generally see those poorer quality teachers and teachers who don't want to stay there. So there's a lot of teachers moving around all the time, and there's a bit of a lack of continuity there, which I'm sure you can imagine the effect that's having on school children. Then we've also got issues with education quality. So we're seeing that 50% of people who graduate from high school only have a minimum proficiency in basic subjects. So they're really not at the level that they should be to be able to move on to tertiary education or to perform well in the workforce. So there's some issues there with education quality. And we've also got health issues, again, a lack of awareness of personal hygiene, sanitation, and non-serious illnesses, as well as a limited emergency response capacity, which really takes its toll when you've got lots of motorbike and road accidents happening, but not many first responders to assist in those situations. And then in the hill tribes, we're seeing 33% of people that are living in poverty compared to the national average of 7%, as well as big issues to do with animal mistreatment throughout Thailand, especially with the tourism industry and the destruction of the natural habitat for those animals. So we have quite a few programs in Thailand, depending on what you're interested or what your skill set is and how you would like to help. So again, we have our community challenge that's really focused on education. Anyone can get involved in this one. And we're looking at seeing how we can improve the quality of education through our workshops, and also improve the children wanting to stick around and continue studying rather than dropping out to work or do other things. We've got our health promotion program, and again, we're looking at health education for the community, but on this program you'll also have the opportunity to connect with the local hospital and health workers there. Depending on your qualifications, you may be able to be involved in helping out with patient admission and health checks if that's what's needed, or doing community outreach, like you can see there, taking vitals and providing people who maybe wouldn't necessarily get the chance to go and get a checkup, they can have that done there. And then we've got our Thailand Paramedic Challenge, which is a really exciting one, where you'll be looking at creating a network of volunteer first responders throughout the hill tribes. So in the hill tribes, there aren't health centres, there aren't first responders that are based there. And so if there is an accident or someone needs first aid attention, they mostly won't receive that. So we're working with the health centre and the hospital in Mae Sariang to train up a network of community volunteers who put their hands up and have said, I want to help out in an emergency, I want to know what to do. So you'll be working and using your skills to train local paramedics to build that network and help provide people the opportunity to get urgent care, and really, you know, the difference between life and death in some situations in those communities. And then finally, we have our Elephants and Hill Tribes Challenge. So this is a really exciting one. You'll get to spend 1 week in Chiang Mai at an elephant sanctuary that is really leading the way in terms of animal welfare and advocating for animal rights around the world. And here you'll get to work with over 80 rescued elephants, as well as rescued cats and dogs. And you'll be doing things like feeding the animals, caring for the animals, helping with the day-to-day running of the sanctuary. You might be doing things like learning about conservation of local land and how you can be helping the reforestation and things like that. And then in your second week, you'll head up to the hill tribes and you'll spend a week here working at one of our partner schools. You'll be doing a range of educational activities depending on your skills and interests. This might be focusing on things like STEM, creative arts. You might do a bit of health, you might do a bit of an environmental focus, and you'll also likely be working on some infrastructure projects as well, so enhancing the environment of the schools that we have. Alrighty, so moving away from Asia, possibly my favourite destination we're getting to is Peru. In South America, and you can see there two of our participants who were in Peru last December once they reached the top of Machu Picchu on our Salkantay trek there. It's definitely a once in a lifetime opportunity and something that should be at the top of everyone's list. But in Peru, we're working across two towns, so Urubamba and Ollantaytambo. And these are based in the Sacred Valley, which is an amazing area full of so much Inca history. It's sort of the pathway through to Machu Picchu, and it's about an hour away from the city of Cusco, which again is just an incredible old city full of history. So usually when you get here, you would fly generally straight into Peru, and then you would get a connecting quick flight across to Cusco. You'd be met by our team at the airport and then have that sort of 1 hour bus trip to the volunteer accommodation in either of the towns where you might be working. And so some of the issues that we're seeing here is that 44% of the rural population live in poverty in Peru, which is huge. We've got huge barriers to quality education, so there's a lack of infrastructure, there's a lack of learning materials, and teachers are poorly trained, which then leads to a lot of issues with students being disengaged, students dropping out, and students who are completing their schooling, they're really not learning and taking in all the information that they need to go on to well-paying jobs and tertiary education. We're also seeing a lack of awareness of hygiene, sanitation, and nutrition. There's a lot of processed food that's been introduced from America, and so we've got a lot of people who are buying that, especially when it's cheap and you don't have a lot of money, and so we're seeing a lot of issues linked to that. And then we've got poor health infrastructure, so just a general lack of health services, health knowledge. Health centres are hard to get to, often they're private, and people who are living in poverty can't afford that. So, how you can help in Peru. We have our community challenge and our Machu Picchu challenge. Again, this is focusing more on engagement with education and addressing some infrastructure areas. On the Machu Picchu challenge, after your 2 weeks of volunteering, you'll actually spend a week trekking out to Machu Picchu. On the Peru Health Promotion Challenge, like our other programs, this is really focused on health education and is perfect for anyone who has an interest in or skills or studying anything relative to health. And you'll really be focusing especially on healthy habits and nutrition and diet. There are so many amazing foods that are local to Peru that are grown natively, and when in our community where everyone is mostly a farmer and working in agriculture, it can be really easy to access these things. There's just that lack of knowledge. And then we have our environmental program where you get to spend 1 week in the Amazon rainforest. You'll be moving around to a few different conservation stations, learning about the local conservation challenges and seeing all the amazing flora and fauna that is in the Amazon. And then you'll spend 1 week with our community focusing on environmental programs and really seeing how you can aid the local community to learn a little bit more about the natural environment and how they can be working with that into the future to protect that against all the climate challenges that we're seeing. And then finally, we have Tanzania, which is our program that's running in Africa. And so in Tanzania, we're based up in Arusha, which you can see up there. The second dot is Mount Kilimanjaro, which I'm sure many of you have heard of. And so when you arrive into Tanzania, you'll fly into Kilimanjaro Airport, be met by our team, and then transfer about an hour to Arusha, where you'll be based. And so in Tanzania, again, we're seeing issues with extreme overcrowding in classrooms. We've got about some classrooms you can see 60 students in the class with just one teacher, which really makes it hard to provide a quality education. We've got 57% of high school age children aren't enrolled in school, and that's a significant percentage of children who are not able to have the opportunity to go to university or to get a job that requires them to have attended high school and getting stuck in that poverty cycle. Some huge health concerns. Life expectancy at birth is only 55%, which I think just blows my mind. We also, through that, have high maternal death rates. Things like malaria, HIV and AIDS, and waterborne illnesses are really big issues, and it really comes down to a lack of knowledge about those illnesses and how to stay safe and protect yourself. And then we've got 54% of people using unprotected sources of drinking water because that's all that's available to them. And again, we're seeing all the illnesses and side effects that are coming through from that. So how we can help is through our Tanzania Community Challenge, which is pretty much a combination of all the other challenges that we've been talking about recently. And it's perfect for anyone who wants to come and make a difference in our community in Arusha. So this one, depending on what you're studying and what your skills are, will again have a focus on education, but you'll be tackling all those issues that I've spoken about before. So there could be health education, some environmental education, as well as just again working on engaging children in their education, helping with those issues of overcrowding, seeing how we can do some renovation work at the schools to make it a more conducive learning environment. One of our previous teams worked on installing a water tank along with local workers for the school, so that there's some clean water there for the children to be drinking during the day so they can concentrate. That's a few things that you would be doing in Tanzania with us. And then there's also the option to do the Kilimanjaro trek, which is not for the faint-hearted. But if you are thinking, well, I'm in Tanzania, I might as well take on that challenge in Kilimanjaro, we can arrange that for you as well so that you can really take on that huge challenge there. So that is an overview of everywhere that we work. Before I touch on a few other things that I want to talk to you guys about, I'll just pause in case there are any questions from anybody, and just see in the chat. Feel free to add anything up there. Otherwise, I will move on. All right. So I think COVID-19 is certainly something that we need to just give a little update on. And obviously we're really closely monitoring the situation, both in Australia and overseas. And we have been heartened to see in a lot of our communities that we're seeing the other side. The curve is flattening. We're not seeing new cases. Thankfully, because of our communities being in the rural location where they weren't too badly hit, if at all. And so we're really feeling confident that come next year in the winter and summer periods that we'll be able to have our volunteers coming back with us. But in saying that, we have introduced some new flexibility options because we don't know what the future might hold, but we do want you guys to have the confidence to be booking your program now, having the certainty that you're going to be able to do an adventure like this, but that you might be able to change details if you need to, depending what happens next year. So we've got no change of date fees. If anything comes up and you need to change your program, we can push that back for you to whatever date suits you best. If you need to change your program, you might want to be changing to a different destination, but keeping the same dates, we can do that for you. And we also have flexible payment plans. So you can choose whether you want to be paying fortnightly, monthly, or in quarterly installments. And if you did change your program or postpone it to later dates, that payment plan would extend along with your program deadline as well. So we really want to make it easy and fair, and ensure that you guys can lock your program in now for 2021, but have that peace of mind that will make sure that it's able to go ahead and we can be flexible with any of those things that might be happening with COVID-19 or other life events. We're also paying a lot of attention to our health measures in our countries as well. So we've always had very high hygiene standards, but we're looking at how we can enhance those. So seeing if we're reducing the number of volunteers that are sharing accommodation together. It's always been an expectation that people wash their hands before meals, but this will be something that's enforced, and we'll also be doing more regular and intense cleaning in all our accommodation and meal areas as well. And I also wanted to let you know that we have been working on something really exciting, which is our virtual internships program. So if you want to do something now to help, you don't want to wait until 2021, keep an eye out on our website and our social media, because we will be launching our virtual internship very soon, which is an amazing way for you to, over the coming months, build your skills and help us make a difference in our communities, albeit from the comfort of your own home. So finally, if you want to learn more, if you've got some burning questions, there are a few different ways that we can help you out. You can book in a call with an expert. So our volunteering experts are here to help everyone with their program. So if you have a bit of an idea of what you might want to do, but you're not exactly sure what's the best program for you, or you have a few questions that you want to ask, maybe you want to talk about how you might be able to get credit for that, for volunteering with us, then you can book in a call with one of our volunteering experts. Then you can also visit our socials. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and that's a really good way to connect with any of our volunteer alumni, watch some videos and see firsthand what our programs are like. If you've got just a quick question, you don't want to book in a phone call with one of our experts, you can send an email to us. And of course, you can always check out our website for the latest information about what's happening at Challenges Abroad. So I hope that this session has answered some of your questions about where we work and what we're up to. I'll hang around for a few minutes if anyone has any final questions. But otherwise, thank you for joining us today, and really looking forward to seeing you guys start your global citizenship adventure with us in 2021. Thanks, everyone.